here he comes. And he introduced himself, and he said, so what are you up to these days? And I said, third grade.
Diane Lane has been one of Hollywood's most respected actresses for over 4 decades. She was a child star, a punk rock rebel, and an Oscar-nominated leading lady. She has survived a chaotic childhood, 2 failed marriages, and the relentless scrutiny of the tabloids. But through it all, she has remained fiercely private. Until now. At 61, we are finally addressing the rumors that have followed her for years. The scandalous affairs, the broken marriages, and the truth behind the headlines. The truth changes everything we thought we knew about Diane Lane. The rise of Diane Lane. Diane Lane was born on January 22, 1965, in New York City, but her entry into the world was marked by immediate instability. Her parents separated just 13 days after her birth, setting the stage for a childhood that would be defined by upheaval and legal battles. Her mother, Colleen Farrington, was a Playboy centerfold and nightclub singer, while her father, Burton Eugene Lane, worked as an acting coach and taxi driver. The early years of Lane's life were a tug-of-war between 2 parents who could not seem to agree on anything. The custody battle that followed was prolonged and legally combative. Her mother took her to Mexico, triggering a bitter fight that would ultimately be won by her father. When Lane was 6 years old, her father secured legal custody and raised her in New York City residential hotels. His unconventional approach to parenting meant that Lane frequently rode along in the taxi cab he drove to sustain income. It was a far cry from the stable childhood most children experienced, but it also exposed her to the gritty realities of New York City life from a very young age. Lane's father saw acting as a practical solution to his parenting challenges. He openly stated that placing her in acting roles was more cost-effective than paying for daycare. By the age of 6, Lane was already performing professionally, trading traditional childhood activities for rehearsals and stage performances. Her career effectively substituted for a normal childhood, and she was thrust into a world of adult responsibilities long before she was ready. At age 6, she began her professional acting career with the renowned La Mama Experimental Theater Company in New York. She performed internationally in demanding, avant-garde theatrical productions like The Trojan Women, experiences that would shape her artistic sensibilities and give her a maturity beyond her years. Lane later reflected that joining La Mama at such a young age definitely got her a seat in therapy, acknowledging the toll that early professionalization had taken on her mental health. By age 12, Lane's talent had earned her a role in Joseph Papp's Broadway production of Anton Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, where she shared the stage with veteran actress Meryl Streep. The experience was formative, giving her a glimpse into the caliber of work she would aspire to throughout her career. The stage was where Lane honed her craft, developing a presence that would soon capture the attention of Hollywood. In August 1979, at just 14 years old, Lane achieved widespread mainstream recognition following her feature film debut in A Little Romance alongside legendary actor Laurence Olivier. Olivier was effusive in his praise, calling her the new Grace Kelly. The film was a charming coming-of-age story that showcased Lane's natural talent and undeniable screen presence. It was the kind of debut that most actors could only dream of, and it propelled Lane into the spotlight with breathtaking speed. The massive success of her debut led to her face being featured on the cover of Time magazine in 1979, where she was declared Hollywood's whiz kid. The sudden public exposure subjected her to an aggressive level of industry scrutiny before she had even reached adulthood. Lane herself was pragmatic about the praise, later noting that she understood even then that it was not about her personally, but rather the studio's publicity machine at work. She also observed wryly that Henry Kissinger was in the corner of the same cover, which put the mythology of celebrity in perspective. The cover was a double-edged sword, opening doors while simultaneously burdening her with expectations that no 14-year-old should have to bear. During her transition into young adulthood in the early 1980s, Lane momentarily shifted away from standard Hollywood expectations by integrating into the punk rock subculture. She starred in the 1982 cult film Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains, where she portrayed Corinne Burns, the fiercely rebellious teenage lead singer of an all-female punk rock band. The role was a departure from the wholesome image she had cultivated, and it allowed Lane to explore a darker, edgier side of her talent. The film deeply immersed her in the real-world UK punk and new wave scenes, as she shared the screen and recorded tracks alongside iconic musicians like Paul Cook and Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, as well as Paul Simonon from The Clash. The experience was transformative, exposing her to a world far removed from the glossy studios of Hollywood. Paramount shelved the film for 16 years because the company could not figure out how to market it, but it has since become a cult classic, celebrated for its raw portrayal of female punk attitude. The early promise, the sudden fame, and the intense scrutiny all took their toll. Lane had been thrust into the spotlight before she was ready, and the weight of expectations was crushing. But the challenges she faced in her personal life and the battles she would endure behind the scenes were just beginning. Personal struggles and controversies. The early promise of Diane Lane's career came with a heavy price. By the time she was 15, the pressures of fame, the intense micromanagement from her father, and the claustrophobia of her early success had become overwhelming. In 1980, she orchestrated a radical act of rebellion. She ran away to Los Angeles for an entire week with 19-year-old actor Christopher Atkins, whom she had met while filming the television drama Child Bride of Short Creek. The cross-country flight was a desperate attempt to escape the suffocating grip of her father's control and the weight of expectations that had been placed on her shoulders since childhood. She would later look back on this specific era with regret. In a 1989 interview with People magazine, she officially characterized the flight as dangerous and reckless, the direct byproduct of having far too much independence at too young an age. The decision to run away was not a calculated act of defiance, but a cry for help from a teenager who had been thrust into adulthood long before she was ready. Upon returning to the East Coast, the family dynamic grew significantly more volatile. Her mother, Colleen Farrington, forcibly took Lane from her New York life and whisked her away to the state of Georgia. Lane later recalled getting into her mother's car and realizing there were no handles on the doors. All her mother wanted to do was talk, but Lane was too busy freaking out because she was being driven to Georgia against her will. The forced relocation triggered a massive legal standoff. Her father filed court actions to retrieve her, and Lane subsequently moved back to New York, where she legally declared independence from her father's direct household, paying rent to live with a close friend's family using her own film salaries. The psychological damage of being a child weaponized in a parental feud would stay with Lane for decades. Decades later, while promoting her 2024 performance in Feud, Capote versus the Swans, she publicly processed this lingering childhood trauma. She recalled the agony of being forced by her father to actively choose against her mother. She described the experience of actually being fought over as really tricky, living between two strong, passionate, fiery parents who were not united in any way. The experience left her feeling apologetic, as though she had done something wrong just by showing up. She did not speak to her mother for 3 years after the incident, though they eventually reconciled. On a professional level, Lane's transition into adult stardom was plagued by severe financial and critical disappointments. She was cast by director Francis Ford Coppola as the central female lead in back-to-back high-budget films, The Outsiders and Rumble Fish in 1983, followed by the critically lambasted and financially disastrous production The Cotton Club in 1984. The films were highly anticipated, but failed to connect with audiences in the way the studio had hoped. The massive commercial failure of The Cotton Club severely tarnished her standing in Hollywood. Frustrated by the harsh industry backlash and the continuous media focus on her personal life, Lane chose to drop out of the American film industry entirely. She moved to Georgia to live with her mother, seeking privacy and a way to escape the relentless Hollywood machine. She later explained that she had made enough money to take things easy for a while, and that nothing very good had come her way after The Cotton Club. The move to Georgia was not just a career decision, but a personal one. She had not been close to her mother for a long time, and they had a lot of homework to do to repair their relationship. The lost years gave her the space to heal and reconnect with the mother she had been estranged from for so long. Throughout her early 20s, Lane found herself fighting a constant battle against sensationalist tabloid columns. The media relentlessly sought to pair her off with every prominent young leading man she worked with. They fabricated romantic narratives involving her and co-star Matt Dillon, and projected intense media speculation around her brief real-life relationship with rock singer Jon Bon Jovi. Lane dated Bon Jovi for about 5 months in 1984. She later spoke highly of the experience, saying she was 20, and every girl should have such a wonderful experience when she was that young. Despite persistent rumors, she always insisted she was not the inspiration for the song "You Give Love a Bad Name," pointing out she never wore red nail polish. The struggles of her early career and the controversies that followed shaped Lane into the resilient actress she would become. But it was her first marriage to French actor Christopher Lambert that would prove to be another significant chapter in her personal life. The relationship that began on a French television set would lead her down a path that was as complicated and challenging as the one she had just escaped. First marriage to Christopher Lambert. Diane Lane met Christopher Lambert in Paris in 1984, while she was on an international press tour promoting The Cotton Club. The meeting was brief, but memorable, the kind of encounter that lingers in the mind long after it ends. Lambert was an established, highly celebrated international film star at the time. He was widely recognized for his acclaimed portrayal of Tarzan in Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, a role that had cemented his status as a leading man with serious dramatic chops. He was also on the precipice of securing massive global cult stardom for his iconic title role in the action fantasy film Highlander, which would be released 2 years later. The combination of his French-American heritage, his rugged good looks, and his undeniable screen presence made him one of the most intriguing actors of his generation. Their initial meeting in Paris sparked an immediate, intensely passionate romantic affair. The chemistry between them was electric, the kind that feels destined and inevitable. But the relationship burned out quickly due to the geographic distance and heavy work schedules that defined both of their lives. Lane was shuttling between film sets and press tours, while Lambert was building his international career. The timing was not right, and they split up shortly after their initial romance. The pair spent 2 full years entirely apart, each pursuing their own careers and personal lives. But fate had other plans. They were cast together in the 1988 film Priceless Beauty, originally titled After the Rain, which filmed on location in Rome. Reunited on set, their real-life chemistry completely overtook the production. Lane openly admitted that within a mere 2 weeks of working together again, they became an inseparable couple. The connection that had been sparked years earlier reignited with even greater intensity. She later reflected that when doing a love scene with your lover, you think you never did it well enough because you know how good it really is between the two of you. The couple rapidly formalized their relationship, marrying in October 1988 in an intimate, private ceremony held in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Lane was 23 years old, and Lambert was 31. The wedding was a quiet affair, far removed from the Hollywood spectacle that often accompanied celebrity unions. It was a deliberate choice, a reflection of their desire to keep their personal lives separate from their public personas. On September 5, 1993, 5 years into their marriage, the couple welcomed their only child together, a daughter named Eleanor Jasmine Lambert. Motherhood was a grounding experience for Lane, a shift away from the relentless pace of her career and toward something more private and meaningful. To the global public and the entertainment media, the union was framed as a glamorous, ultra-chic European-American artistic power couple. They split their time between beautiful international locales, presenting an image of stable, sophisticated domestic bliss. Lambert was a rising star, and Lane was a respected actress with a career that continued to evolve. On the surface, everything appeared perfect. But beneath the surface, the foundational structure of the marriage was severely fractured by isolation and geographic distance. Because both were in high demand globally, Lambert was constantly traveling to remote international filming locations for months at a time, leaving Lane physically isolated. She found herself alone for extended periods, waiting for a husband who was rarely there. She later described the marriage as a series of long absences punctuated by brief reunions. She was alone far more than she was with her husband, and the loneliness took its toll. In a remarkably candid 2007 retrospective interview with Esquire magazine, Lane laid bare the deep emotional struggles of that marriage. She stated that she spent the vast majority of the marriage entirely celibate due to Lambert's perpetual absence. She described feeling like someone who was desperately waiting for a partner to return and make her feel like a woman. The image was striking, a confession of profound loneliness and unmet emotional needs. She also reflected on what had drawn her to the relationship in the first place. She admitted that she had been looking for something, perhaps a sense of belonging that had eluded her throughout her childhood. Lambert had been the object of a fantasy, but the fantasy had not matched reality. She dryly concluded that she had found the absolutely least likely person on the planet Earth to give her what she needed. Lane filed for divorce on July 7, 1994, concluding just under 6 years of marriage. The decision was not made lightly, but it was necessary. She later summarized the ultimate reason for the collapse as a total mismatch of emotional needs. She admitted she had used the marriage to avoid facing her own personal voids, believing she had found safety and belonging in a man who was incapable of providing either. The relationship had been a way to avoid confronting her own issues, a distraction from the work she needed to do on herself. She also reflected that it was an important lesson to learn. The dissolution of the marriage left Lane single and searching, but it also gave her the opportunity to reflect on what she truly wanted from a partner. She had learned that glamour and international success were not enough. She needed someone who could be present, someone who could provide the stability and connection she had been craving since childhood. The path ahead would lead her to a second marriage, one that would be even more tumultuous and ultimately even more painful. Second marriage to Josh Brolin. Diane Lane and Josh Brolin had crossed paths over the years, both having started their careers as teenagers in Hollywood. But it was not until 2002 that their romantic connection truly began. They were reintroduced at a premiere party for A Beautiful Mind, and Brolin approached her with a simple question. "Hi, remember me?" Following that chance encounter, a series of candid emails initiated by Brolin sparked their communication, which quickly escalated into a deep, intense real-world courtship. The timing was right for both of them. Lane was looking for stability, and Brolin was drawn to her grounded presence. Josh Brolin was Hollywood royalty. He was the son of legendary actor James Brolin and stepson of iconic singer and actress Barbra Streisand. At the time of their meeting, he was a highly respected character actor working to fully cement his status as a major cinematic leading man, a goal he would later achieve with powerhouse performances in No Country for Old Men and Milk. His career was on the rise, and his family connections gave him access to a world that Lane understood all too well. The couple's romance moved at a rapid pace. By July 2003, after a highly publicized whirlwind courtship, Brolin officially proposed to Lane on Independence Day. He later gushed to People magazine that it was right, really right. On August 15, 2004, the couple officially wed in a high-profile ceremony at Brolin's expansive ranch in Central California. The ceremony was casual and intimate, with about 70 guests, including Brolin's father and stepmother, James Brolin, and Barbra Streisand. Guests were told to bring their dogs, which roamed freely around the property, a reflection of the couple's down-to-earth approach to their union. The couple did not have any biological children together. Their marriage established a complex, high-energy blended family unit, integrating Lane's young daughter, Eleanor Jasmine Lambert, alongside Brolin's two teenage children, Trevor and Eden, from his previous marriage to actress Alice Adair. Lane later admitted that blending the families was not always easy. She told Redbook that Brolin had a different parenting style and that sometimes she was grateful when he was strict with her daughter, and other times she felt he was too harsh. The marriage was hit by a major public controversy just 4 months after the wedding. On December 20, 2004, Lane called the police to their West Los Angeles home following a heated domestic altercation. Brolin was promptly arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department and booked on a misdemeanor charge of domestic battery. A spokesperson for the couple later released a statement downplaying the arrest, categorizing the incident as a misunderstanding. The statement explained that Lane did not want to press charges, but that in cases involving physical contact, police are required to arrest first and ask questions later. Brolin was released on $20,000 bail and returned home. Brolin later reflected on the night in a 2018 interview with the New York Times. He said there was no explaining it, and that the only person who could explain it was Diane, and she had chosen not to. He also admitted that he was heavily drinking during that period and that all moral code disappeared when he took a drink. He acknowledged that he was more reactive in those days and that he had gotten to a place where all that mattered was that he had control over his behavior. Despite the public presentation of unity, the marriage faced continuous severe instability behind closed doors. Brolin was locked in a severe, escalating battle with substance abuse and chronic alcoholism. He had been drinking heavily throughout much of his 20s, 30s, and early 40s. He later admitted that he had tried to keep his drinking separate from his children, but he did not always succeed. The destructive cycle put immense psychological pressure on Lane as she repeatedly attempted to support his sobriety. Brolin also acknowledged that his hero complex led to resentment in the relationship. He said he loved being a father figure to Lane's daughter, but that hero mentality exhausted him, and the resentment eventually surfaced. By late 2012, the relationship had completely broken down under the weight of these continuous personal battles. On February 15, 2013, the day after Valentine's Day, Lane officially filed for divorce in Los Angeles County Superior Court. The divorce was finalized on November 27, 2013. In public court documents, Lane officially restored her birth name, dropping Brolin from her legal title. Sources close to the couple verified that the split was ultimately mutual and non-hostile, stating simply that after 11 years together, the relationship had fully run its course. Brolin would later credit the divorce as the severe wake-up call that forced him to check into rehabilitation and achieve permanent sobriety. He got sober in 2013 after seeing his 99-year-old grandmother on her deathbed. He had visited her while hungover, and it made him realize he had many more years to live. Brolin has said that he loves being sober and that he has more fun now. The divorce was a painful chapter, but it ultimately saved his life. The aftermath and impact on Diane Lane. Diane Lane's career experienced its most profound artistic and commercial resurrection through Adrienne Lyne's 2002 psychological thriller, Unfaithful. The role of Connie Sumner was famously turned down by Jennifer Lopez due to script reservations, a decision Lopez would later publicly declare as the single greatest professional regret of her entire movie career. Lopez admitted that the decision haunts her and that she regrets making the choice. Lane, who was 48 years old when she finally responded to Lopez's comments, took a gracious stance. When asked about the revelation, she told Entertainment Tonight simply that it was somebody's moment and it was my turn. Lane aggressively pursued the role specifically because she wanted to work under the meticulous direction of Adrienne Lyne. She chose to fully embrace the deeply controversial, hyper-intense nature of the script. Lyne, she later explained, pushed her so far beyond her own plateau as a performer. He simply pointed the camera at her and asked her to show what she had. The result was raw, unflinching, and unforgettable. One particular scene, filmed improvisationally in a single take while the magazine of film ran to the end, captured something extraordinary. Lane later admitted that she thought they would not be able to use the footage because it was not scripted. But veteran film editor Ann Coates had the genius idea to intercut the footage with Lane's love scene, mining the moment to enter the scene from her character's point of view. Unfaithful completely redefined Diane Lane's public image, instantly transforming her from a respected character actress into a premier cinematic symbol of the 21st century. Her raw, deeply nuanced portrayal of a suburban wife unraveling through an extramarital affair stunned audiences and film critics globally. The performance earned her the highest critical validation of her career, culminating in Best Actress nominations at the Academy Awards, the Golden Globe Awards, and the Screen Actors Guild Awards. She was nominated alongside Nicole Kidman, Salma Hayek, Julianne Moore, and Renee Zellweger, with Kidman ultimately winning for The Hours. Lane described the nomination as flabbergasting, comparing the feeling of relief to learning your child was born healthy. The massive cultural footprint of Unfaithful created a persistent, decades-long challenge for Lane. Because her performance was so realistic, the public and entertainment media spent years conflating her real-life persona with the character she played, endlessly questioning her personal life and hunting for real-world scandals that did not exist. Lane fiercely resisted this media narrative. Following her high-profile divorce from Josh Brolin in 2013, Lane completely insulated her career from tabloid culture by strategically shifting away from romantic lead roles. She successfully migrated into massive Hollywood blockbuster franchises, securing global recognition among a completely new generation of moviegoers by portraying Martha Kent, the adoptive mother of Superman across the DC Extended Universe films. She brought warmth and humanity to the role, later reflecting on the famous Martha scene that connected the two heroes. When you understand the wound, you can work better with people. She simultaneously asserted her dominance in high-end prestige television, earning massive critical praise for her work in the 2024 Ryan Murphy FX anthology series Feud, Capote, versus The Swans, where she played the elite Manhattan socialite Slim Keith. She followed this with a powerful starring role in the 2024 Netflix drama series A Man in Full, where she played Martha Croker, the ex-wife of Jeff Daniels' character, emerging from his shadow as his real estate empire begins to crumble. Now in her 60s, Diane Lane remains single and intentionally unmarried, completely dedicating her life to independent cinema, high-profile studio projects, and maintaining her fiercely guarded privacy. Her legacy stands as a masterclass in Hollywood. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more updates.